What up, though? We're back in the building. What up, fam? Welcome back to the Mortgage Mayhem podcast. I'm your humble host, G Money. This is where real estate meets the real world, and the money, mayhem, and madness don't miss a beat. I'm so glad to be back. I'm kind of getting off to a little bit of a late start today. Had a couple things that had to get squared away, but we here and we're ready to get to it. Shouldn't go too long today. We got viral headlines, of course, some powerful mortgage and real estate hacks, deep dive into a company called Trustbridge Capital. One of my guys over there, his name is Ali. He's heading that outfit. Actually, we're going to have him up at some point, but today we're just going to do a deep dive on the company. Kind of give you guys some insight on who they are and what they do. So that should be great. A lot of stuff to get to today, though. $600 tariff rebate checks, luxury watch status breakdown, money rules to live by, marriage fraud crackdown, Michigan 7,500 baby cash program, presidential fitness tests results, the White House trying to do a $200 million ballroom, diversity programs, again, under fire, just kind of just chop it up, So now let's get this thing rolling. Let's do a little house cleaning real quick, and then we'll
podcast where the mortgage game meets real life, real talk, and a whole lot of chaos. We break down the deals, the drama, and the data behind the scenes of real estate finance, with a twist of street smarts, savvy, and a touch of madness. Before we dive in, here's the deal. The Mortgage Mayhem podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are not attorneys, CPAs, or licensed financial advisors, and nothing you hear on this show should be taken as legal, financial, or investment advice. Always consult a licensed professional before making financial decisions. Welcome to the Mortgage Mayhem podcast.
Okay, so we got that out the way. And what we want to start off with first today, folks. Nope, don't want to do that one. Where's our boy Josh Hawley at? Okay. Anyway, all right, so Republican Senator Josh Hawley introduced legislation to provide tariff rebate checks of at least $600 per adult and child to American families. Senator Josh Hawley has introduced a bill that would send tariff rebate checks of at least $600 per adult and child to U.S. families, similar to the stimulus checks that people receive during COVID-19. This comes after President Trump said he supported the idea last week. The rebates would be structured as refundable tax credits with checks going out this year if the bill passes. Higher earner individuals making over $75K, heads of households over $112.5K, and joint filers over $150K would see a 5% phase out. Hawley said America deserves a share of the money collected from Trump's tariffs, which brought in $27 billion in June alone. While tariffs may raise up to $2.5 trillion over the next decade, critics warn that they act like hidden taxes, potentially costing households over $1,300 this year. The bill faces a tough road, and House Speaker Mike Johnson has previously dismissed direct payment proposals, including one tied to the DOGE program backed by Elon Musk, who has since distanced itself from Trump. Okay, so basically, Josh is trying to, have favor with the president. President's somewhat mad at him because Josh basically, was on board with, a new law for people that's in politics, that's in the White House, or, congressmen, senators, not being able to do tax, things because of insider trader. And he proposed a bill. I don't know exactly what's in the bill, but he proposed a bill to not allow senators, presidents, congressmen to be able to take advantage or to buy stocks while they're in office because they have the possibility of doing insider traders. So, of course, the president don't like that because, right now they're just sitting around, making just millions and millions of dollars by, being able to kind of have that insider, trader, especially the type of president that we have right now, who's bully is his middle name, so he can definitely figure out what's going on with this company, threaten that company, figure out if this company about to go under, so you should drop, do away with your stocks. This one is about to, have something big come on the forefront, so dig in so you can, get your gains. So to him, it's just all a big money game. And it's a money game that not just him, but probably everybody, except for a person like Josh. And I don't know why he's doing it because I'm pretty sure he's been benefited, from some stock information throughout his tenure as well. So I'm not sure if he's just doing this to kind of, make it seem like he's, not a insider crook like the rest of them. But the president doesn't like it. So I think this particular attempt is to get back in good favor with the president, which is insane because they all are, pretty much at his beck and call. He has them all punked out, to say the least. So Josh ain't gonna be no different. So we'll keep our eye on it, and we'll see what happens. Let's keep this thing moving. Hey, I just kind of wanted to kind of touch on this a little bit. The levels of luxury watches. I'm kind of getting into the whole watch game. Just got a rolling not too long ago. So I guess I want to be rich. But these are the levels of luxury watches. Richard Mille is saying that if you got some Richard Milles, you're pretty much filthy rich. The Patek Philippe, Old Money King Audemars is AP, is the African American term, is new money. So if you got your AP on, that means you kind of came into some new money. Rolex is want to be rich. Cartier. C-suite manager, so you climbing up the corporate ladder. They're saying, that's appropriate for you to have Cartier. IWC, Jagger LeCoultre is your first bonus check. Office worker, you're going to have your Tag Heuer or your Longines. Longines been around forever. And then students should be in a Seiko Presage or Tissot. So I just wanted to this is a program where we talk about money, we talk about this, we talk about that. So I just want to kind of be educating, the audience at the same time to kind of understand, what these things mean and what's the value behind them. And watches have always been, a pretty major thing. But the top three was not always, in the range of the average, person. It was like more so a Rolex at the top. If you had a Rolex, you was doing something, or you was on your, on the move of doing something. So Rolex is always going to be the reliable one. APs, Patek's, and Richie Millie's. That's the new thing. That's what the rappers and the athletes and big money individuals That's the watch game that they're playing around with. The RMs, the Paddocks, and the APs is the one, and us lonely, folks at the bottom who's trying to get to the top. We're with the Rollies and the Cartiers, and so on and so forth. So just wanted to kind of hit that a little bit, just kind of bring some money into the fold while we're on the show. Just kind of talk about just the little things, and if you're trying to kind of start your watch game, you want to try to get to the Richie Millie or the AP. If you're new money, you want to start at the AP, and then of course at some point you want to get to the Richie Millie. So there it is, levels of luxury watches. You know what I'm saying? So all right, let's keep it moving. I wanted to also kind of talk to you guys about the 7 money rules everyone should know by the age of 25. So let's get into this. The 50-30-20 rule. Budget your income based on your number 1, needs, food, rent, 2, wants, vacation, new cars, and goals, savings, extra debt payments, etc. Your needs should be 50% of your income. Your wants should be 30% of your income, and your goals should be 20% of your income. That's the 50-30-20 rule. All right. Number 2, the 4% rule says you can take out 4% of your savings each year during retirement without running out of money. So example, total money, you got $1 million. $1 million times 0.04 equals 40,000. 40,000 divided by 12 months equals $3,333 pre-tax. That means you can spend up to $3,333 per month in retirement if you have $1 million. So you see how much, if you really 3,000 in retirement, that's okay. But in order for you to really, really, you got to have more than $1 million, when you retire, because this is what you're looking at, pre-tax dollars. Every month you're only looking at $3,000 a month for you to live off of. So, just something to think about. All right. The 3X and the CX fund rules save 3 to 6 months worth of your living expenses in an emergency fund. Only use this fund for emergencies like a valet, like a vet bill, flat tire, or medical bill. It'll save you from taking on debt to cover any surprise expenses. So the 3 to 6X fund rule. All right, so number 4, 2X investing rules. For every dollar you splurge on a luxury item, invest the same amount. Example, if you buy a $200 pair of heels, invest $200 into your investment account. This is a very good investing rule right here. This will keep you honest. This will, make you not feel so guilty after you make a major purchase or a luxury item purchase, because if you have enough to purchase whatever it is that you're purchasing, you should also have enough to invest in whatever you're investing in as well. So I like that. Number 5, the 3X rent rule. The 3X rent rule says rent should not exceed 1/3 of a person's gross monthly income. The idea is that housing shouldn't consume more than 1/3 of a person's income. So you have money left over for expenses, savings, and investments. So that's the 3X rent rule. All right. 2410 rule. If you have to take a loan to buy a car, then follow the 2410 rule. 20% minimum down payment. Max 4 years. Max as of years the car should be financed. And then 10% of your gross income is that third piece that we can't see because send a gift is in the way. All right. So the rule of 72, find out how long it would take your investment to double. I remember the rule of 72 back in the day, messing around with Primerica. This was one of the main things that they kind of lived on, the rule of 72. Excuse me. So find out how long it would take your investments to double. Divide 72 by the growth rate of your investment, expressed as a percent. Example, how long will it take to double your investment at 10% interest? So that would be 72 divided by 10 equals 7.2 years. This is a great rule to follow, especially when you're young, because if you follow this rule and you start investing young and you try to be around that 10%, rate on your investments, then in 7 years, that could actually double whatever that dollar amount is. So just make sure you pay attention to this and exercise this as a young person, because by the time you get your retirement, if you exercise this early, you'll have more than enough money for retirement. More than enough. Okay. All right. So, all right. While we're doing this, I'm still, doing business. So I got all kind of stuff coming through my cell phone. So if I have to dip for a second, excuse me. All right. So that's the 7 money rules everyone should know by what age? The age of 25. So this is what I mean by starting early. If you get into the game, if I knew what I knew now at 25, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. I would be more than wealthy. And, this is for the next generation of people who maybe, watching, or if I put together, some shorts and they come across the shorts, they'll get a better understanding of, how money works and the actual rules behind money. I think it's important, so just pay attention, and, kind of keep these types of things at the forefront. You don't have to be young to do these things. You can practice these things as an older individual as well. But it's always better to get started early. All right. Okay. What is next? All right. Okay, so marrying a U.S. citizen no longer guarantees permanent residency in the United States, as Citizenship and Immigration Services crack down on marriage fraud. So love might be in the air, but the Department of Homeland Security is sniffing out something else: marriage fraud. If you, through marrying a U.S. citizen, guarantee a green card and a happy ending, think again. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service (USCIS) just flipped the script like a plot twist in a bad romantic comedy. Now, getting married for a visa might land you in a wedding you didn't RSVP for. 5 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. And no, that doesn't include catering. A few years ago, all you needed was a decent tux, a bouquet, and a believable backstory. Today, you might need a lawyer. USCIS is cracking down harder than a jealous ex with access to your DMs. Warning signs: you're in a fraudulent marriage. Your spouse forgets your birthday but remembers your passport number. You've had more interviews with immigration agents than actual dates. Your wedding photos were shot in a courthouse, edited on Canva, and printed at CVS. Pro tip: if your honeymoon plan includes fleeing the country before your court date, it might not be true love. If your honeymoon plans includes fleeing the country before your court date, once again, it might not be true love. So before you walk down that aisle with someone who you can't spell your last name, remember, love is blind, but immigration isn't. And that's true. That is so true. So, that's pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. They're just cracking down like they're cracking down on everything else. What's happening, you're not going to really have no loophole. You're going to have to figure out a way to be in this country legit. The days of skirting the system, the days of trying to get around, the system is pretty much over. I mean, to be in a country like ours, I totally think, it's a dream to be here. It's the American dream to be in the United States of America. For a long time, a lot of people have skirted, the systems or the laws that we have in place in order to be here. We got to get better at, processing people to be here. But the people have to get better at doing the necessary things to be here in the country, learning English, and just following whatever immigration laws that you need to follow in order to be, eventually a U.S. citizen. So this is just, one of the other ways that people would try to take, to skirt the system by, and you hear jokes, I'm gonna marry this person, I'm gonna go into the DR, and if I could get a green card, I'm gonna bring so and so back, and it's always been somewhat of a running joke, but not really, because a lot of people do this. A lot of people do marry folks in order for them to get a green card, and then next thing you know, they're no longer together. So this is not just made up. This is the for real deal. And now, with everything being so focused in on immigration, all the little things that people used to do to kind of skirt the system, they're tightening up, and they're, letting you know, which is a good thing, because you need to know. You don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're trying these antics, and what did they say? 5 years in prison and $250,000 fine. You don't want no parts of that. So, once again, if you're going to be here, figure out the way to be here legally, because if you're not doing it the legal way, then you're putting yourself in all kind of jeopardy, jail time, money, where you might have to relax in your country and then figure out what steps you need to take to get away from whatever troubles you're having in your country, or if you just want to come to the U.S. so you can also experience the American way, the American dream, you got to take the necessary steps, because this administration has come in and turned immigration, on its head, and it's not about to be peeled back no time soon. So do it the right way, folks. All right. Okay, let's keep that thing moving. All right, so to combat falling birth rates, Michigan enacts the No Strings Attached program. States gives new mothers $7,500 for the first year with no limits on how money is spent on income to qualify. So Michigan Cash program for new moms could inspire national change. Michigan RX Kids program gives new and expecting mothers up to $7,500 and no strings attached cash support over their baby's first year. Launched in 2024, it aims to ease the financial strain of early parenthood amid declining birth rates and rising childcare costs. Moms receives $1,500 during pregnancy and $500 monthly after birth without income requirements. This program is currently active in cities like Flint, where I'm born and raised from, and Pontiac, where I'm actually doing business at, and will soon expand. It's funded through the mix of state, local, and private donations, which hopes for future government backings. Supporters for both political parties praise the program's simplicity and impact, says it helps families meet basic needs, return to work, or stay home longer with their babies. Some moms say it helped them afford school or avoid stress. Mom received $1,500 during pregnancy and $500 monthly after birth without income requirements. The program, once again, like I said, is active in Flint and Pontiac, and supporters from both political parties have praised the program. So through statewide expansion although it's got statewide expansion faces funding hurdles, lawmakers see it as a model for boosting support for families and possibly reversing the nation's falling birth rates. This is always going to be a good thing. I think by, helping mothers, because, when you're going through it, you don't really understand it. But when you're going through it, you can't really work just to kind of have a little cushion there. You get a lump sum, $1,500. Maybe most people don't think that's car seats. That's, a lot of different things that, you can kind of access without having to go into your own pocket. And $500 a month, until you max out to $7,500, for your first year of having a baby, that's $500 a month. That can go towards some bills. That can go towards some, Pampers. You can do a lot with $500 a month on top of, whatever else you are already getting. So this is definitely a great program. Hopefully they'll be able to kind of get it on a statewide, budget basis, but typically, and I think both parties should be on board with it, because the Republicans, they don't want abortions and, things of that nature. So if they really and truly feel the way that they feel in their politics state, then, this is something they should be able to wrap their arms around, being able to, have or to allow people to know that if they do have a child, that is not going to just be all on them. There is some help available to folks, and that might deter folks from actually having abortions and things of that nature. So I think it's a good bill. I think, it definitely could help with the falling birth rates, and then, Caucasians, they feel like brown and blacks or just brown people are kind of taking over as far as having babies and things of that nature. And they're kind of doing everything in their power to kind of slow that. So I think this might be an opportunity to kind of help them as well, but just help mothers in general to be able to have a little cushion as they become new mothers. Maybe, postpartum may kind of go down a little bit as well. So just one of those things I think is always, a good thing. And, if it can help, the mothers, and then in turn, the mothers are able to be more attentive to the newborns, I think it's a great thing. So we'll keep our eye on it. I'm right here, so I'll be able to kind of see if it, kind of goes to the next level and the government gets involved and it becomes something more permanent. All right. Okay. So let's keep it moving. All right. So ain't a lot that I'm liking that the president is doing. I must be honest. I think his pettiness, I think his lying is just above board. But there's certain little things that he can do that kind of I can be okay with. And this is one of them. The president signs executive order reviving presidential fitness tests for students. So the president signs executive order reviving the presidential fitness test for student kids in America's public schools. Will soon be lacing up their sneakers for the presidential fitness test as the president announced its return Thursday. More than a decade after it was discontinued, Trump signed an executive order that would expand the Presidential Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition and bring back the presidential fitness test in public schools. I'm going to just be honest with you. I just recall and I just remember back in the day, we would get like the gold badges, the yellow badges, or, the gold badges or the silver badges, and then the brown badges, and people used to really take it serious. And I mean, we used to have to climb the rope, that used to be crazy. And it was just a lot of different things that you had to do in order to, get that presidential award. And it was a big thing when I was growing up. I don't know what happened or when it, went left. But I just know it was one of those things, and I'm glad that they're bringing it back. So like I said, I don't agree with pretty much anything that the president has been doing. And I definitely don't agree with how he goes about, treating others. But this right here, I can wrap my arms around it because once again, it's, we're in a country of obesity. It could kind of help detail some of that. And then it's fun, when you got these certain goals when you're a kid that you can hit. It's just fun. It's one of those fun things that kids can get behind early and becomes more of a competition. And we need that. We need to get back to some of the old school things that led to competition, led to sportsmanship, so on and so forth. So we'll give that 2 thumbs up and we'll kind of keep our eye on it, right? Okay. This here, another thing. Nope, not that. Where are we at? Interior photos of the $200 million White House ballroom. So the White House just announced that they're breaking ground on a $200 million ballroom in September of 2025. In a statement by Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, she claimed that for the first 150 years, presidents have longed for a large event space that can host more than 200 people. The new White House State Ballroom will be around 90,000 square feet and designed to host more than 650 people. The White House official website notes that in the past, when the administration attempted to host large events at the White House, they had to use a massive tent about 100 yards from the actual property to accommodate all their guests. Once the new ballroom is complete, that will no longer be necessary. They estimate the cost of this luxurious addition to be around $200 million, which Trump and other patriot donors have committed to funding. The White House ballroom will be substantially separated from the main building and will be located where the East Wing currently stands. You know what? When I first heard about it, I was like, and let me kind of give y'all the exterior photos of it as well. I wasn't really for it, but I get it. 200 people to 600 people. I mean, we're United States of America. We can't be freaking holding, events in tents. I'm not for that. I like the fact that they're adding to the White House. big. You know, you add square footage to the White House, and it's going to be used for generations to come. So I don't like the fact that the president is talking about he's putting up his money and his people. I don't like that because then that allows him to have, too much ownership of the situation. So we're as citizens, we should all be okay with this and allow tax dollars or some other form of government, spending to allow this to happen. If you want to take donations, so people can kind of have, their name as a part of the building, so for decades to come, you spend, million to whatever you're gonna spend. You get, maybe a wall or something within the building. I could see something like that, but for the president and his cronies to have full ownership of it, nah, I don't think that's a good idea. So we'll keep our eye on it, and we'll kind of. I get folks saying we can spend that money somewhere else, but come on, guys, we can't be serving, having different dignitaries coming from all over the world, and we don't have a proper place to hold events for those individuals, and a tent to me is just so ghetto. So I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this. I'm not okay with how they're talking about paying for it, but I'm okay. Any other thing outside where folks want to put their money together to make something happen, I might be okay with it. But this is something permanent, and this guy, with his pettiness, I can't even imagine him getting upset. And next thing you know, he's trying to, do something to the building because he's, in worst case scenario, him just bragging about it. I spent 200 million of my own money to make sure that we had a White House ballroom. I can hear it from a mile away, and nobody wants to hear that. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, we'll keep our eye on it. We'll see what's up. All right, let's keep it moving. Okay. This was crazy. So the president fires the Bureau of Labor Statistics commissioner hours after agency reports sharp slowdown in the U.S. job growth. So hours after the agency reported weaker than expected U.S. job growth, the BLS announced a gain of 73 non-farm jobs in July, falling short of market forecasts and revised job growth figures from the previous 2 months downward by a combined 258,000. Trump announced the firing on Truth Social, Sotaki, calling Mech and Tariff a political appointee, and stated the need for accurate job numbers. The announcement coincided with market downturn, including a more than 500-point drop in the Dow Jones Industrial Average and a decline in Treasury yields. So, come on, dude. Let the bars be the bars. Let strikes be strikes. You can't be. I don't get. This is the one thing I get. I mean, the president is older and he's so white privileged to the point where he just thinks he could just play in our face, but he really can't. I mean, because we all see and understand, like, bro, these are the numbers. Don't be trying to make us think that all of a sudden, all these years, nobody's said anything about the numbers. You, including you've been all good if the numbers look the way you kind of need them to look. And when they come in, not looking the way you want them to look, all of a sudden it's cheating going on. They're doing this because of you. This guy is the most thin-skinned, the most, I can't even really put my fingers on it for real, but I just ain't never seen somebody so thin skinned and so wanting to fake like he's the perfect individual, the perfect, everything I do is perfect. That's like white privilege at its finest. And I don't rock with it. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And it's like you playing in our face. We know exactly what's going on. This is not 1950, 40, when folks weren't really that educated. It wasn't a lot of mediums for us to get information and really understand what's the truth. There wasn't no Google. It wasn't no Chat GPT. And this guy, 70, almost 80 years old, he's still like in that mind frame. Like, I can say what I want to say and I can lie to until you believe my lie. It's kind of the route that it seems like he's taken. Nobody's done anything to these numbers. You know it. Bro, how do you expect to have a great economy when it comes to job when you're doing the majority of the firing? That's the crazy part. Like, bro, you done fired all kinds of people in the government, and that's a trickle down effect in other areas of business, private sector business. So you just think you're gonna have a glowing employment number when you've done that? You've had Elon take a chainsaw, literally brought a chainsaw to an event and was just in there talking about, we're cutting. Come on, bro. It's just too much. You know what I'm saying? It's just too much. So we know it. We know what's going on. He's gonna try to put somebody else in there. They're gonna be trying to do some slick stuff. We're gonna find out that that's what they're doing. He's gonna try to fight us to say no, that's not what they're doing, when we all know that that's really what they're doing. He's gonna try to make the numbers work for him so he can run around acting as if he's had the best economy for out of anybody ever. You know how he do it, the best ever. All that old stupid stuff. When we all know, bro, you can't play in our face. We know. We're not uneducated. We see what you're doing. So we'll keep our eye on it. But it's stupid and crazy to me, for real, for real. All right. And here's a prime example. Black unemployment under Trump reaches its highest rate since the pandemic. Here's what it could mean. All right. The black unemployment rate hit its highest level since the pandemic in 2021. According to the latest job report released by the U.S. Department of Labor, researchers and experts tell the griots that uptick is due to President Trump's economic policies, including tariffs and his anti-DEI agenda, which has resulted in thousands of federal workers losing their jobs. Angela Hicks, chief of policy program of the Century Foundation and a former Department of Labor official under the Biden administration, told the griot that the chaotic nature of Trump's policies has made the economy less stable. Black workers are often last hired, first fired. And so when you see black unemployment rising, it's both concerning for black workers, but it also tends to suggest something deeper is going on in the economy. Hanks explained, black federal workers have found themselves at the center of Trump's agenda, which includes downsizing the federal workforce, reducing and dismantling several agencies and departments, and eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion roles. Mayor Karen Spencer is accelerating efforts to, rewrite. Okay, that's the same thing. My bad. So, this same thing. I don't even. Of course, especially like in a city like where I used to live, where my son still live at, in that Maryland, DC, kind of suburb DMV area where the majority of, Prince George's County once was one of the wealthiest counties for Black Americans. And a big part of that was because of the government jobs and things of that nature. That took a significant hit. That's wiping out Black wealth as we speak, because those get paying six-figure jobs, two family incomes, making that kind of money, you're able to invest, blah, blah, blah. And I just think they kind of got, since they're so close to that area, they got a chance to kind of peep into, how good Black folks are doing in that area. And they didn't like that. They didn't like that at all. And they're like, it ain't white folks that has these federal jobs and, $200,000-$300,000 incomes, depending on what level of the federal government you're working in. If it ain't them that's getting money like that, we're going to tap into this and kind of start wiping this wealth away. And, as you go there now, all kind of houses are for sale. People, it's hard to lose six figures out of a household. How do you come back from that? You know what I'm saying? And it's going to be, ain't no more government jobs that can afford you that kind of income. You got to pretty much start over, or whatever it was that you're doing. You got to hope that there's an industry that you could take that skill set and, incorporate yourself into, but there's really not. There's no treasury department. I mean, you might be able to find some kind of financial job or, Department of Education job. I mean, Social Security or IRS. I mean, you can probably navigate a way to, figure out a way to continue to get money, but it's going, it has disrupted these cities. Is definitely disrupted these, Black families. And, this is the cause. Employment, employment goes down, people start to struggle, and we're back to where we once was. And that's just sad to see. So, we'll keep our eye on Black, unemployment, over the next couple, years or so. You got to figure it out, guys. You got to play the game. We've been here long enough to understand the game that's being played right in front of our face. Luckily, a lot of us kind of understood that early and figured out a way, to be able to, make money for the rest of our lives without kind of being affected by the BS that the government tends to, put forth. So you got to figure out a way. It's ways. That's the beautiful thing, that nowadays you can figure it out. Compared to what it used to be back in the day. It was, you didn't have a lot of options. Now you got a ton of options. So, just realize that, a job is just what it is. It's just over broke. So you gotta have a way, a skill set that can pay you, until you determine you don't want to, be in the rat race anymore. So, excuse me. All right, so let's keep it moving. We'll keep an eye on that. I mean, that's, that kind of coincides with, what we was just talking about. All right, so Spencer Hawks, minority contracting, once again, here we go, says Trump could jail St. Louis workers and contractors. This is just crazy. The mayor, Karen Spencer, is accelerating efforts to rewrite city minority and women-owned contractor rules, saying the Trump administration has threatened grant cuts and prosecution in cities with such programs. In a letter to businesses, contractors, and residents released on Saturday, Spencer said the city will stop on Monday issuing new construction contracts that triggered the rules and move immediately to redo city laws that govern minority participation. Otherwise, she said the U.S. government could start clawing back the city's federal grants, assess civil and criminal penalties, and even target city employees and contractors. Moreover, she said it could threaten the city's recovery from the May 16th tornado that tore through North St. Louis. Unlike other communities, these changes threaten federal funding the city is actively fighting to secure, she wrote. The announcement marks the latest blow to a decades-old city program. Officials have already stopped certifying businesses to participate in the program and privately pitched a race-neutral replacement promoting small businesses. Yeah, they just out here wilding. They just out here playing in our face, just I don't know. They're looking at it from a perspective of we're gonna give everybody equal access, but we already know what's going to end up happening. That's why DEI was actually permitted in the first place, because we thought that could actually happen, and it ended up, becoming racially biased, discrimination everywhere. But if that's the game they want to play, guys, we just gonna have to kind of, tighten up our bootstraps and get in the game and play the game however they want to play it. Because the one thing we can say and the one thing we do know, any game that we decide to really get focused on and actually play, we end up being superior. So this is going to be the same thing. They want to play the DEI game with us. Okay, we'll just have to show you that it don't matter. It didn't matter in the first place. We just wanted an even playing field. And since you kind of don't want that to be the case, then we'll just go at your throats the way, however you want to put it. So in this case, if, y'all want to add a neutral, however you're supposed to get this money or whatever contracts that you're supposed to get, then we'll figure it out. These white boys and gals can't do it all. They're gonna have to. Most of them are too privileged to even want to be doing, this kind of stuff. That we're talking about building these neighborhoods up, these black neighborhoods. I mean, you got a lot of folks that's Caucasian that gets it as well. I don't want to say that. That's why you got a lot of gentrifying in a lot of areas. St. Louis is going to definitely be one of those areas here at some point once they kind of get the tornado stuff behind them. It's funny because I know brothers that's in that St. Louis area buying and flipping houses, buying and building their portfolios in that particular area. So we're already boots on the ground. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be affected in some kind of way. But once again, they got into that market when people were saying they couldn't get into it, and they broke into it and, been getting money ever since. So you ain't gonna be able to stop us, guys. I know y'all think that this is the old days where you can play in our face and, limit us. We're too advanced now. We know too much. We know how to work around. We know how to develop relationships. Every white person is not white and black people are going to work with each other. The ones who understand that, and if you want to disguise it or if you want to kind of act like you're taking something away, when we, go head up and figure out how the game is now played, we're going to master it. We're going to be able to gain wealth from it. So it's really y'all thinking that we're in the old days where we didn't know, we didn't have access, we didn't have skill sets, and that's just not the case. We're fully educated brown and black people with tons of resources, tons of money, and tons of ideas and abilities to create revenue for ourselves. So, y'all took us to the well or to the pond and thinking that, we're going to just watch you fish we learned how to fish so we can eat for the rest of our lives. You know what I'm saying? So it ain't no more we're just watching y'all and being in awe of what you can do. No, we've learned how to do it ourselves now. So you can try all the little tricks in the book you want. It ain't gonna stop us from figuring it out. That's just the bottom line. So anyway, we'll keep our eye on it. I wish the mayor of St. Louis, I mean, she seems like a reasonable person. Hopefully, she'll be okay. But the folks out there that's trying to do big things in St. Louis, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna be just fine. All right, let's keep it moving. So our hot topics, that's pretty much it for that. Our 4 viral mortgage and real estate hacks before we get into our deep dive with Trustbridge Cap. Use the FHA 203K loan, rehab and finance with just 3.5% down. I think we may have talked about this before. Perfect for you beginners. Our DSCR loans is our hack 2, qualify using property cash flow, not your personal income. Great for scaling your investment business fast. A house hack and multi-unit, live in one, rent the other, reduce or eliminate your mortgage, and then tap into your self-directed IRAs. Use other people's retirement funds to finance deals without the bank. So those are just 4. We touched on those. I just brought them back to the forefront because that's the climate we're in, and these are hacks that you can use now if you're in the game. So that's our 4 mortgage hacks for today. We're going to go ahead and bring up, let me come down and, okay. Let's do that. All right.
There's that famous quote, people often say it's Andrew Carnegie, the industrialist, that 90% of all millionaires become so through owning real estate.
Right. It's a really powerful idea for a lot of people.
Totally. But, often the biggest hurdle isn't actually finding the right property. It's getting the money together, the capital, to actually do the deal
Oh,
and doing it fast.
exactly. Which brings us to today's deep dive. We're looking at Trustbridge Capital. They're a private lending firm, and they're focused specifically on helping real estate investors clear exactly that hurdle.
Okay, so Trustbridge Capital.
Yeah. And our mission here is really to unpack what makes them different. What's unique about them in this private lending space. They really lean into their identity as women-owned, veteran-led,
Mm,
and they make a pretty bold promise: fast approvals and closings. So we're going to explore how they actually try to deliver on that,
right.
helping investors find the deals, sure, but then bringing the capital like really fast without all the usual headaches.
Okay, so let's start with that identity piece. Women owned, veteran led, that's quite specific. How does that maybe shape, who they are or how they operate? Does it tell us something beyond just ownership?
That's a really good question. I mean, it's not just a label. Often, companies with that kind of background, you see a culture of um, discipline, maybe efficiency.
Hmm.
Veterans, women in business, they often bring a certain focus.
Sure, maybe resilience too.
Yeah, possibly.
Oh,
For Trustbridge, it seems to come through in their focus on reliability and, well, precision. Their main thing is providing private money, private capital for real estate investors,
right.
and they seem to have built some serious trust. They mentioned working with over 500 investors, I think across 43 states.
Wow, that's broad reach.
It is. And they're not just funding one type of deal either. They do the fix and flips, which are common, but also ground up construction, DSCR loans. Those are for rental properties and even commercial projects.
Okay, and you mentioned their promise is speed. They have this tagline everywhere, right? You find the deal, we bring the capital fast.
Yes, exactly. That word fast is clearly not an accident. It seems like a core part of how they work.
So, how fast is fast in their terms? What do they actually promise?
Well, they talk about pre-approval in minutes, apparently with no obligation. And if you're new to investing, they say get pre-approved in 24 hours.
24 hours. Okay. And for closing.
For the actual closing, they claim as little as 10 days, which compared to traditional bank loans, that's really quick.
Definitely. They mentioned zero red tape compared to traditional lending. What does that actually mean in practice? Like, what are they cutting out?
That's the key difference, usually.
Mm.
Zero red tape in private lending often means fewer forms, maybe less focus on your personal W-2 income if you're an experienced investor with a good track record.
Okay.
Traditional banks, they can get really bogged down in verifying every detail of your personal finances. Private lenders like Trustbridge, they tend to focus more heavily on the deal itself,
Mm.
the property's value, its potential, and maybe your experience.
So it's more asset-based lending.
In many cases, yeah, especially for certain loan types. It helps investors know quickly if they can move forward. But, it's important to remember pre-approval isn't the final commitment to fund, but it gives you a strong indication.
Right. That speed must give investors a real edge in hot markets.
Absolutely. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Competing against cash offers or other fast movers.
So speed is obviously a huge draw, but what else might make an investor choose Trustbridge? They talk about things like tailored loan solutions. What does that mean?
It means they try to fit the loan to your specific deal and, importantly, your goals as an investor, not just a one-size-fits-all product.
Okay. And they also stress direct access to experts. No call centers, just pros. That sounds appealing.
Yeah, that's a big one. Instead of getting routed through a generic customer service line, you're supposedly talking directly to people who understand real estate investing, maybe even decision makers. It speeds things up and avoids miscommunication.
And then there's transparency. Transparency from start to finish. They say, we say what we mean and we mean what we say. How does that play out? Because let's be honest, lending terms can sometimes be opaque.
Right. Transparency is crucial. It often comes down to avoiding nasty surprises at closing. Are the fees clear up front? Are prepayment penalties spelled out?
Exactly. Points, origination fees, servicing.
All of that. So when Trustbridge emphasizes transparency, they're likely committing to really clear term sheets right from the start, explaining all the costs involved and having those accessible experts walk you through it. No hidden gotchas.
That makes sense. How do these practical promises, the speed, the tailored solutions, the transparency, connect back to their core values? They list five, right?
They do. Integrity first, which ties into that transparency. Speed wins, obviously core to their model. Creative solutions, we structure, you scale. Execution excellence, we deliver, period. And true partnership, when you win, we win.
Okay, let's unpack creative solutions. How might they structure something creatively to help an investor scale up beyond just funding one deal at a time?
That's where the partnership aspect really comes in, I think. Creative solutions could mean maybe offering a bridge loan so you can buy a new property before you've sold your last one.
Ah, okay, bridging that gap.
Exactly. Or maybe structuring a portfolio loan, bundling several of your rental properties under one loan. That can simplify things and potentially free up equity for your next purchase.
Right, makes management easier too.
Definitely. It might also mean being a bit more flexible on, say, the loan value ratio or how they calculate debt service coverage based on your experience in this specific deal rather than just rigid rules. It's about finding ways to say yes and help you grow.
So it sounds like they have quite a toolbox of loan programs to make this happen. You mentioned fix and flip, bridge loans. What else do they offer?
Yeah, they have branded names for them, which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
Their fix and flip is Easy Flip. The bridge loans are Quick Bridge. Then for rental properties, using that DSCR metric debt service coverage ratio, they have Rent Flow.
Okay, rent flow. How might that be different for someone looking to, say, build a rental portfolio?
Well, again, it likely comes back to speed and maybe flexibility and underwriting. For rent flow, they might focus heavily on the property's cash flow potential and your track record, maybe streamlining the income verification compared to a traditional mortgage, especially helpful if you have multiple properties.
Got it. What else is in the toolbox?
They list Quick Fix, which sounds like a no appraisal loan product useful for certain situations. Build Smart for ground up construction, literally from dirt to done.
New builds too.
Yep. And Procom for commercial and mixed use properties. Then there's Portflow for those portfolio and hybrid loans we talked about,
It's quite a range.
a very wide range. Plus, they mentioned programs for wholesalers and brokers and both small and large balance bridge loans. So whether you're flipping, building new, refinancing, or really trying to scale up a rental portfolio, they seem to have a product designed for it.
Thinking about it, finding that amazing deal, like a perfect house to flip, it feels great. But then the clock starts ticking. If funding takes forever,
The deal can just evaporate. or someone else snaps it up.
Exactly. So is that where Trustbridge's speed, combined with all these different loan types, really becomes their like superpower for
I think
investors?
that's exactly what they're aiming for. Time really is money in real estate investing. That 10-day closing promise. It's designed precisely to give their clients a competitive advantage in fast-moving markets,
It lets them act like a cash buyer almost.
or at least much closer to it than someone relying on a slow, traditional lender. And it ties back to their whole partner-first mindset. They explicitly say, your success drives ours deal after deal.
So it's not just transactional, one loan and done.
That's the message. They talk about providing a dedicated team that actually knows real estate, gives fast answers, clear guidance. The goal seems to be helping you, the investor, scale faster and invest smarter. They want to think like an investor alongside you.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive on Trustbridge Capital, what we've seen is a private lender really emphasizing number one, speed, then tailored loan solutions designed for different investor strategies.
Right. And a commitment to transparency throughout the process,
No.
plus that wide range of loan products we just discussed. Easy Flip, Quick Bridge, Rent Flow, and all the others.
All under that banner of being women-owned, veteran-led.
Exactly. And, going back to that Carnegie quote about real estate and wealth,
Yeah.
it makes you think, doesn't it? For you listening, how could partnering with a specialized financial player like Trustbridge actually change your approach to investing in real estate? What kind of support beyond just the money is most critical for hitting your specific goals?
Mhm.
Is it the speed, the flexibility, the expert advice?
That's a great question to ponder. It's not just about the capital, but the right capital partner.
Precisely.
And for anyone whose interest is piqued and wants to look deeper into Trustbridge, they do mention resources on their site, like a funding roadmap or specific ways to apply online.
Yeah. Or you can just reach out directly.
Right. They list their contact info pretty openly. You can call or text them. The number is 646-516-4222.
Okay.
Email is sales@trustbridgecap.com. That's trustbridgecap.com. Or they even list a physical address in New York City, 307 West 38th St. 16th floor, #1013.
Good to know they have options for reaching out.
All right, that was good, man. Thanks to my folks who do my deep dives. I really do appreciate them. I can't say, save me so much time, and so be able to get with them and put together these deep dives is like priceless. So let's talk a little bit about Trustbridge Cap, a powerhouse in private lending. They give traditional banks a run for their money. They specialize in quick closing, flexible loan products, create a financing structure for investment who needs speed and strategy. Whether you're doing a fix and flip, cash out refis, or ground up construction, Trustbridge has the tools and terms that gets deals done. What makes them stand out? They understand investors. They fund fast. They say yes when banks say no. If you're a serious investor or just getting started, keep Trustbridge Capital on your radar. They might be the missing link in your funding strategy, right? All right, so that's going to be it for today's fire episode of Mortgage Mayhem. If you learned something today, share it. If something made you mad, talk about it in the comments. If you're ready to level up with your real estate game, let go. Don't forget to follow at Mortgage Mayhem Podcast on all platforms. Subscribe on YouTube. Join join. We're trying to build a community. We added quite a few new subscribers over the past month, which is great. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. I'm going to continue to be here once a week, breaking stuff down for you guys, giving you, game hacks, the whole 9 yards, real game, breaking companies down, bringing interviews on. So, we got something big coming up in October. I'm going to have, that's going to be just great. I can't wait to do that for you guys. I've been kind of playing with it a little bit, but I just look forward to doing that, October for you guys. So, just come on, be a part of the community. I'm giving you all kind of game. You may not realize it, but when you go back and you listen and you understand all the information that I've been giving you, it's going to age well. It's a good way to put it. You know what I'm saying? From crypto financing, all kind of credit stuff, ground up construction. These are just some of the interviews that we've done. And then next, we're going to have some realtors, we're going to have some actual investors. So we got a lot going on over here for real. And people, it takes a while for people to kind of catch up to the information. But, I'm in this game every day, all day. So I'm going to make sure that I continue to keep feeding you what you need. But in order for me to keep doing that, let's subscribe on the YouTube channel, and let's share, and allow people to understand the movement that's occurring right in front of their face. But in the meantime, in between time, I'm going to get out of here. I appreciate you guys' time. Like I said, I love doing this, and I just can't wait to continue to build this community and, continue to keep giving you guys this good old game that I'm giving you. So with that being said, I'm out.